So we are going to go over evaluating sources like a pro. Basic skills to help you start your research. So our lesson outline today is first to go over to apply the CRAP test to evaluate source credibility. Second, to identify red flags and unreliable sources. Third, to use basic search strategies. And fourth, to distinguish between credible and questionable resources. First, you can do an interactive source ranking. See these 6 sources on the right. Please rank them from 1 to 6. Take some time and rank them from 1 to 6 based on credibility. You may pause the video now to do that. We're now going to learn a little bit more about the CRAP test. C stands for currency, or how recent. A good one will be published within the last 2 to 3 years for current topics. A red flag will be a 10-year-old article about social media trends. For a quick check, look for the publication date and the last updated information. Next is R, relevance. Does it fit your needs? A good one will address your research question. A red flag only mentions the topic briefly. A quick check, you can research and read the abstract and summary first. The first A stands for authority. Who wrote it? A good one will have author credentials listed and will be an expert in the field. A red flag has no author name or an unknown blogger. To do a quick check about this, Google the author's background. The second A stands for accuracy. Is it factual? A good check would be to cite other sources if it has references. A red flag would be claims without evidence or no citations. A quick check can you verify the facts elsewhere? The last P stands for purpose. Why was it written? A good check would be informs or educates objectively. A red flag would be that it sells products or pushes an agenda. For a quick check, look for the About page or funding sources. Next, we're going to use the CRAP test in action. Look back at these 6 sources once again. Redo the CRAP test with them through a how recent, relevant, authority, accuracy, and purpose. Use yes, no, and unsure next to currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose next to these sources. I'll go back to the sources page so you can see them again. You may pause the video at this time to go over the sources and go over whether yes, no, or unsure under currency, relevancy, accuracy, authority, and purpose. Now we will go over each source. First is the NASA Climate Change Report from 2023. When we look at this source, it does go over, when we go over the source for currency, it was released in 2024. So it does have the most recent information. Then, when we go over accuracy, when we're going over Relevance, does it fit our needs? It confirms that it is the warmest year on record, which is talking about something that is about climate change. Next is authority. Who wrote it? Roxana Breton wrote the article, and it's from NASA headquarters, so it should be factual. Next is accuracy. Is it factual? So it does cite a lot of sources in here. It cites also a video in here and a chart in here that's given for the warmest record done. And then finally, its purpose. Why was it written? It's written primarily for factual information. So this goes over our different guides. Currency, it was recent. Relevance, it was relevant. Authority, who wrote it? It was a relevant author. Accuracy, it was accurate and factual. And purpose, why was it written? It was written to inform us about climate change. So it was written for good reasons. So next is a blog post about the Climate Truth Exposed blog post. When we look at this, is it current? It was published in the last year, so it was current. Next, when we look for relevance, does this fit our needs? This is not exactly sure, because while it does speak about climate change, it speaks about why it is wrong. Because of that, we're unsure about whether this meets our topic need. Next is A, authority. Who wrote it? The author does have good credentials, as they are a scientist on the nature of the climate when you look them up. So they do have good authority. Accuracy. Is it factual? We're unsure about this. While they do have lots of citations in there and they do have a background of being an author, it does not have a verifiable information that we can back up. Purpose. Why was it written? It does inform or educate the population, but does not do this objectively. And because of this, it does not have a good purpose behind it. So, next we look at a journal article from Nature Climate Change. When we go over currency, this article was published in 2025. Because it was published in the last 2 to 3 years on climate change, it is current. Next is relevance. Does it fit our research needs? I'm unsure about whether the irreversible glacier change and waters changing over centuries to 1.5 Celsius is relevant to climate change, since I'm not a climate change scientist, but this did come up when looking up climate change from authorities in our library database. So because of that, it should be relevant. Next is authority. Who wrote it? The author's credentials that are all listed, the many different authors, are all different scientists on climate authorities. So they do have good authority. Accuracy. Is it factual? The citations from here come from research from one research project and from their different models that they used and tested over the period. So it should be factually accurate. Purpose. Why was it written? It does inform and educate objectively and does have a statement from the authors that they have no conflicts. So because of this, it should be written and educate objectively. So next is a Facebook post with climate change statistics. We'll first go if it's current. It is current because it was posted in June of this year. Relevant, I'm not quite sure on the temperature changes, what those have to do with climate change, but it should be relevant to the climate change nature of the topic. Next is authority, who wrote it. The National Oceanic Association, climate.gov, wrote it, so it should be a good authority on who wrote it. Accuracy, is it factual? The read more on climate.gov does explain more on the article, and the article does back up its claims, so it is accurately factual. Purpose, why was it written? It informs and educates objectively. While it does serve under a climate change statistic, it does make sure that it is objective in what it states. Next is a Wikipedia entry on global warming. Is it current? Yes, it is current because it can be updated as recently as yesterday. Relevance. Does it fit our needs? Yes, it fits our needs exactly about telling us about global warming and climate change and what happens. Authority. Who wrote it? Currently, the author credentials are unknown because anyone can edit these Wikipedia entries. Because of that, we cannot know if there is a good authority behind this. Next is accuracy. Is it factual? No, we don't know if this is factual enough, even though it does give a lot of citations. Some of these are pointing to different Wikipedia articles and other sources that are not reliable. Because of this, it is not a reliable source. Purpose. Why was it written? It does inform and educate objectively, but because it can be edited by anyone, it doesn't necessarily form an objective opinion all the time. Because of this, this is not an objective source. Next is an article from The Guardian from the environmental section. We'll first go over currency, on how recent it is. It was published in 2025, so because it was published in the last 2 to 3 years, it is good for current topics. Our relevance, does it fit our needs? It's talking about extreme heat waves that may cause global declining dairy production that scientists warn. While this does talk about global warming, it mostly talks about the impacts of global warming. So this may be something for a later research project. The next is authority. Who wrote it? The author credentials on this are a student who writes for The Guardian. Because of that, even though a student from The Guardian is a good author, they are not an expert in the field. Next, accuracy. Is it factual? There are no citations from this article, and because there are no citations from this article, it is not factual. Purpose. Why was it written? It does not inform or educate objectively. We know this because the title warns against global decline in dairy production, and also the subtitle says that Israel-based study finds that 2050 average daily milk production could be reduced as daily as 4%, worsening heat stress. Once again, while this is factual, it is not objective because it talks about a decline, and has no factual evidence behind it. Next, we're going to look at spot the red flags. First is a supplement article. So, when we look at the supplement article above, it was updated in 2025. It was written by Kyle Bratz. And it goes over full script and offers a quotation by the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, and it introduces the labs on full script. And then it goes over making health routines easier to track for everyone, seeing the whole patient picture a whole lot faster, and making healthcare whole starts with you. So some of the red flags that we saw in that article were purpose. While it had good intention, the purpose was mainly to sell full script. Because of it trying to sell something, it is not completely objective. Next is authority. When we look at Kyle Bratz's authority, he does not have any authority in the field of supplements, and because of that, he is not a good authority. Finally is accuracy. While there is a quote from the Central Disease Control Center, it does not have any other quotations or resources besides full script by itself. Because of that, it is not an accurate description. Next is social media trends article. So when we look at this social media trends article, up at the top, it says the best of 2015. It's by Emily Marchek. It's from December 2nd, 2015. It talks about Instagram by the numbers, filters and fade color, layout on Instagram, support for landscape and portrait orientation, improved explore page and search function, improved Instagram direct, hashtag able emojis, Instagram gets serious about advertising, cinema graph, video, real-time marketing, and so much more. But when we spotted the red flags, some of the red flags included that it wasn't current because it was from 2015. The relevance, while it was about social media trends, it was only about Instagram. Because of that, it didn't include all the social media sources. Finally is authority. The authority on this source was not an authority who had been an authority on social media sources, and because of that, it was not accurate. Finally is a source on zero citations. So, the title is, Are 90% of academic papers really never cited? Searching citations about academic citations reveals the good, the bad, and the ugly. April 9th, 2024, by Dahlia Reamer. It then goes on to talk about academic journals, and it does cite some things that are highlighted in blue. When we look for the red flags, we're looking for accuracy. Is it factual? It was not exactly factual due to the fact that it never actually referenced any relevant sources, even though the highlighted blue did provide some references. Some of the references were out of date and unavailable. Due to that, it's not exactly an accurate source. Purpose. The reason behind it was to cite if academic papers' citations were actually good. Because of that, it didn't have a real good purpose behind it. Finally, is relevance. It wasn't relevant to the topic that we needed, and because of that, it didn't stay objective. So next, we're going to look at online search modifiers. When conducting an online search, combine and use these modifiers with your search terms to get better and more specific results. You can use and by narrowing down by looking at both or all your search terms in each source. Use the minus sign or use the or word. They tell the search engine to alternate or exclude search terms. Quotation marks. Enclosing search terms in quotation marks tells the search engine to look for the exact phrase. So when we look at some search examples, we can look at renewable energy in quotation marks and solar. This searches sites where the exact phrase renewable energy appears with solar. The results are about renewable energy, specifically solar ones, or renewable energy and solar or wind. This searches sites where the exact phrase renewable energy appears together with solar or wind. The results are about renewable energy, specifically solar and wind ones. Pause the video now and try the following combinations of search terms and modifiers in a search engine. Go to a library database or Google Scholar. Now we're going to learn about databases versus Google. When to use what? Library databases are good for academic research and peer-reviewed sources. So think about a project in which you have to cite relevant information in a first-person aspect or a third-person aspect in which you must cite sources in which are authorities of those academic citations. Next is Google Scholar, good for academic sources and citation tracking. This is good for things like tracking down different types of sources when you're looking for already one source that you love and want to find a different source, either by the same author, by the same publisher, or an article by the same name. Because of this, Google Scholar is good for this. Finally is regular Google. Google is good for background information, to get the highlights. Also of current events and some definition highlights. Google is good for surface level information. Next is your assignment. Find one source about one of the topics below: social media, cybersecurity and online privacy, or robotics. Apply the CRAP test and write 2 to 3 sentences explaining why you'd use this source and why. Pause the video now and write your sentences. In conclusion, research is about more than just using your topic or question to look for references. Here are some more skills that can come in handy when starting a research topic. Identifying and using reliable sources. Always conduct a quick credibility test, or the CRAP test that we learned, by reviewing the resource type, author, and web link or Universal Research Locator URL, and if it's current. And second, to combine search terms with modifiers. Use key ideas as search terms and combine them with modifiers such as and, or, and quotation marks. Thank you. And are there any questions?